From Washington, the McLaughlin Group, the American original. For over 3 decades, the sharpest minds, best sources, hardest talk.
Hello and welcome. Our guest today is John Schindler from The Observer. Welcome back, John.
Here.
Good to have you here.
Thank you.
And so on that note, we will get to our issue 1, peace and Pyongyang.
So I really believe they are sincere. I hope they're sincere. We're going to soon find out.
President Trump reacted optimistically this week to South Korean claims that North Korea is ready to discuss denuclearization and the dismantling of its ballistic missile program. But not everyone is happy. Some analysts fear that North Korean leader Kim Jong-un is using the offer of talks to buy time to complete his intercontinental ballistic missile plus nuclear warhead development program. The CIA has said Kim will likely attain that capability a few months from now.
Pat, what do you think about the president's visit with Kim Jong-un coming up? Is this a good idea, or how should it be changed?
It's already done. We played our ace. That's what Kim Jong-un wants. I mean, he's had a great year. He blew off a hydrogen bomb. He's tested ICBMs. Now he's got the President of the United States coming to him. Same time he went to the Olympics. But let me say this. I'm in favor of it. I think we ought to talk to this guy.
On what timeline, now or wait?
I think we ought to talk to the same timeline they set up by May. Right. And that to me is just fine. But I'll tell you this guy is not going to give up his nukes. They're the one thing that ensures his survival. I do not believe he's going to test ballistic missiles or test another hydrogen bomb, because that would blow up the summit, and I think he wants the summit.
Well, how much is this him trying to buy time, though, Eleanor?
Well, I'm on the same page as Pat on this one. I'm not sure that this summit will ever take place. I think the president played, as you put it, his ace card. Kim Jong-un has already now won the first round. This fortifies him in power. This gives him a huge selling point with his people. He has wanted a summit with an American president for decades, and that hasn't happened. I agree, though, that it's a good thing if it does happen. We're talking, and the possibility of a nuclear confrontation has now gone down considerably. However, if there is a meeting and it fails, you have the danger of greater escalation.
Yeah, Clarence, I mean, do you think, though, I mean, the concern here is that he is just, by saying let's do it by May, that buys him a couple months more, and if they're 3 months away from getting that capability...
It's not going to happen by May. That's really a somewhat fanciful timeline. I believe the early announcements of this were so confused because they keep rolling back, saying that we are... it's not so much the talks are set, but talks in order to lead to talks are what is set. The process has begun. But the fact is, both... This is interesting. I turned off the TV and listened to the WWE while watching the coverage of this, and back and forth, Little Rocket Man versus versus Trump is kind of like seeing a couple of wrestlers beforehand, you know, shaking their fists at each other, and then they come back and they have a civilized match.
Right, it's the extension of The Apprentice, isn't it?
That's what this really is, and so you've got both Trump and Kim Jong-un want this meeting because it enhances their prestige on the world stage. So it's really their show.
John, what do you think?
Well, jaw, they say, beats war, especially nuclear, and that's fine, and there's nothing wrong with this in principle. But remember, 3 generations of the Kim family, going back to the time Harry Truman is president, have wanted and never gotten precisely what Trump just gave them, which is a bilateral standing, treating each other as equal.
How would you tell the president to do? What would you tell him to do?
Don't do that. Well, certainly
done.
It is a done deal. But this should have been led up for months with increasingly important diplomatic back-channel meetings, which can culminate in a summit.
But all that's water over
it's water
the
under
dam.
the bridge. It is.
Let
It's
me
done.
say this.
Is
I think
Trump
where
being
you're
played,
mistaken.
though? Is he being played here?
Look, what I do not believe Kim Jong-un is going to test an ICBM. I do not believe he will set off a hydrogen bomb in the next couple of months. I think he wants this meeting, and that would kill it. I mean, I think the problem is going to come after the first meeting, and Thomas, heard you the other night, you were talking about we're going to get IAEA in there. You're kidding yourself. It's going to be a long process. He'll be working behind the scenes, but I think it's going to be a long process. I hope we have a process.
I don't know if there's even going to be a meeting, but there are deals to be made. We don't want them to proliferate. You're not going to get them to give up their nuclear weapons. The best you can get is something like the Iran deal, where you freeze it in place and it's expensive, and that would be a buying time, and that would be a victory if they can see it as such.
So many ifs. Last comment. Even if this meeting never happens, and I don't think it will, the Kim dynasty will be dining out on this propaganda for decades to come.
Absolutely.
We got treated the way we wanted to be treated.
It enforces his rule.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That's a lovely discussion. Issue 2, U.S. versus California.
This Attorney General has no regard for the truth. What he said earlier today is not true. It is a lie.
Attorney General Jeff Sessions and California Governor Jerry Brown shared sharp words this week as the Justice Department sued California over its so-called sanctuary state policies. The Trump administration is enraged by Californian efforts to prevent the detention of illegal or undocumented immigrants by federal law enforcement agents. And speaking in California, Attorney General Sessions had one particular target for his fury: Oakland Mayor Libby Schaaf. Last weekend, Mayor Schaaf warned residents of her city to prepare for imminent federal immigration enforcement raids. How dare you, Sessions said.
Pat, who's going to win this battle over immigration?
Sessions and Trump will win this battle, and the reason is what's going to happen is some of these illegal aliens or illegal immigrants are going to commit atrocities out there, and they're going to, just like the AR, those Armalite rifles, Eleanor, where you get another school shooting, and all of a sudden the whole country's going to turn against it. They will turn against illegal immigration very hard when you get one of these, and I'll tell you, it's going to be very bad for Democrats who are out front saying, keep ICE out of the state.
Now, Pat's trying to play the Southern strategy again and relive the 60s. If there are atrocities, they will be local mayors and officials and law enforcement people standing up to protect their citizens, and they will win in the court of public opinion. The court standoff will go on for a long time.
But do you not think Democrats are vulnerable here, Eleanor? I mean, Trump won on the...
No, I don't. Sanctuary cities is a sexy phrase, but these are basically local mayors and law enforcement officials protecting the citizens, protecting them from violent crime. And if you terrorize people who are there without papers, you're only operating against the best interests of the larger
Nationally,
population.
though, it's going to be a winner for Republicans, I'm telling you.
All right, Clarence,
that's what Pete Wilson thought back in the 1990s.
It was a winner for him.
And Democrats, well, it was not a winner for his party. That's how California became a solidly Democratic state. This is so ironic to have Jeff Sessions going against states' rights here and tell California what to do. California, you got the police chief in L.A. saying, don't force us to turn in people who are witnesses to crimes or victims of crimes. This has been a real problem now as far as trying to keep law and order locally. We've had these scare stories in the past. Trump campaigned on them, saying, be afraid of immigrants. They're out there to kill you. It's just not realistic.
John, what do you think?
Can I speak? No, I think this is dangerous because for both Sessions and Governor Brown, this plays to both their bases, right? I mean, we have a different situation now where the Trump administration is aggressive on this. Previous Republican administrations have not been. And of course, that means it's going to get worse.
What do you think is going to happen with voters, though? I mean,
I think what plays very well in California may not play well nationally. That's the issue. And I think California is
locally out there, I'm sure Jerry Brown is fine, but nationally, if you get illegal immigrants committing crimes and you got people saying we're giving them sanctuary, that is the biggest winner.
Why are suddenly immigrants going to go out and commit crimes? Their crime level is lower than natural-born people.
Isn't there a principle of law here, though? Federal law is supreme.
That's what they're going to fight out. The federal law is supreme, but not when it's wrong.
This issue was
exactly. Yeah, this is an ongoing American debate. How much right do the states have to govern their own affairs versus nationally?
Bring it on, Clarence.
The problem, fine, Pat. We've been going at this for at least half a century, haven't we? But the fact that the horror stories do not reflect the reality.
Court of public opinion is not going to be on your side.
How did Donald Trump get elected president, for heaven's sakes?
Yeah, but the horror stories.
He didn't win the popular vote.
He's in the White House.
He won it in 3 states.
All right, I'm sure we will come back to this one.
Not for long.
We're moving on. Issue 3, from Russia with death.
This is being treated as a major incident involving attempted murder by administration of a nerve agent.
Last Sunday, Sergei Skripal and his daughter, Yulia, were attacked with a nerve agent on a British street. Both victims are hospitalized in critical condition alongside a police officer who attended to them. But this isn't just any attempted murder. After all, Skripal is a former Russian intelligence officer who, in the 1990s, acted as an agent for Britain's equivalent of the CIA, the Secret Intelligence Service, or SIS. Skripal was imprisoned by Russian authorities for his British spying, but released as part of a prisoner swap in 2010. And while Russia denies responsibility for this attack, the Kremlin's culpability in recent assassinations of defectors, most notably Alexander Litvinenko in 2006, has raised suspicions of Russian intelligence involvement here.
John, what should the British government do, and should the United States government do anything if Russia's hand is detected here?
Yeah, first of all, the British government has to do something, because as referenced, there have been a dozen hits, starting with Litvinenko a dozen years ago, a dozen Russians, some of them defectors, murdered under suspicious circumstances. In Britain, Britain's really done very little. Now they're going to have to do something. A British police officer has been poisoned. This is extraordinarily public. I expect they're going to take retaliation against the Kremlin with expelling Russian diplomats, in other words, spies, trying to turn some of the financial screws on Putin. This is a really outrageous act, even for Putin.
What does it? What does it say about?
Who did it then?
I'll tell you why.
Nerve agents are very easy.
Well, let me tell you, cui bono, who benefits from it? Putin is up for election at the end of this week. This is a horrendous embarrassment for the Kremlin. It was certain to be so when they did it. Somebody that does wet work, you're exactly right. Look, I would say if it's Putin, it would have been the dumbest thing going, and he's not dumb. I'll tell you what I would look at.
But surely it plays to the nationalists of Russia.
I would look at rogue agents from the FSB.
Well, except there aren't a lot of those. And well, the reality is nerve agents are extraordinarily easy.
Why would Putin do something as stupid and destructive as this when he's a smart guy?
Why did he murder Misha Lessing in downtown Washington, D.C.? And
he wanted to get
why not?
And we haven't done anything about that.
We've done nothing.
Get rid of this guy.
The Brits are going to force our hand here.
We don't know why he wanted to get rid of that guy, but there are a lot of the oligarchs are in the UK. They have ties to Putin. It might be a bank shot to get rid of him, but it is a reminder that the Russians play a very tough game. They don't just put bots up on the internet.
Right.
They go much further than any other intelligence agency.
Well, the problem with post-Soviet Russia is you've got so many rogue agents out there already, so many freelancers out there, as well as people who can screw up at a middle level. And it's under Putin's responsibility, but it may not be what he actually wanted.
It's a cutout.
It just makes exactly. It makes things even more confusing.
But John, don't you think that Putin plays this game right? And if it's a nerve agent and it's a cutout, then really it's Putin.
I mean, and nerve agents come from extraordinarily few places in the world. The British government is getting to the bottom of they will know exactly which lab.
But why would Putin do this
to show his power?
A week before his election? To destroy his relationship with the British? It doesn't make sense. All I'm saying is, before you run him down and indict Putin, I'd like to see some evidence.
Right, there's no collusion. That's right, no
Russia's
collusion.
endless war. No, Russia's endless war in eastern Ukraine doesn't make any sense either. But they're continuing to do it.
It does make sense to me. That's a Russified area. The Russians believe it historically belongs. I understand it perfectly. I don't understand why the agency doesn't understand this.
Well, we know the Russians better than you do, Pat.
What would you do, John? What would you do if you were president of the United States about this?
If I were president and I had free action, unlike this one, I would follow the British lead and say we need to have a joint effort to expel a lot of Russian diplomats, to make very clear that this is a line that cannot be crossed again. You cannot poison people in our city.
So do you think Trump won't do that?
No, absolutely not.
Tom, if you had this, he's got total destruction of the relationship between Russia and the U.S. and Britain, if that happens. Why would Putin do that?
Because it's
when
death
he knows
to traitors.
Plays well at home.
Do you actually think that would totally destroy his relationship with our president?
But no, I'm saying if this is what we're talking about, if you're going to expel all these guys.
The big thing here, right, is that the Russians assume they have so much financial influence in London that they can do whatever they want, because the British government wants that money.
They may be right.
John made the side point that this plays well at home.
Absolutely.
That is Putin's policy. Whenever it plays well at home, we tend to think everything is about us as Americans.
And he's very popular in Russia.
Well,
exactly.
This is
exactly right. That's
Putin's
why.
brand. Okay,
Right.
Trump has a brand. This is Putin's brand. We will kill traitors wherever they are. No, it plays very well with.
They let him go. They sent him to Britain. If they wanted to kill him, they had him in prison, put a bullet in him.
Times change. Something happened. We don't know what, but something happened over the last 8 years that Skripal went from being a pardoned, swapped
And you
out
think Putin
traitor.
suddenly got ticked off at this
Well,
character
if
that
it wasn't
he hadn't
Putin,
seen
I
for
want to know
40
who it was.
Well, there are lots of
Lots
dots
of-
connected
all right,
people.
all right.
They all lead to Putin.
Yeah.
When we come back, Trump storm, games and guns, and always tell your friends to watch us at the excellent website, McLaughlin.com, and follow us on Twitter.
Generation Hope is a nonprofit organization that helps DC area teen moms and dads become college graduates. We provide them with tuition assistance, one-on-one mentoring, and crisis support until they graduate.
Crises along the way. There have already been a lot of crises.
My mom passed away, and I do everything for my mom in memory of her. I dedicate this graduation to her on Mother's Day.
When a young parent earns their college degree, the likelihood that that child will go to college goes up, and they will earn $1 million more over the course of their lifetime.
Naraya Omar.
It's a tremendous return on investment. And all of these issues that we care about, homelessness, child welfare, poverty, this really makes a difference and it changes lives.
Congratulations. Have a wonderful weekend.
Hey, you.
Yeah, you. Getting that college education, what are you gonna do? Graduate and take some office job? Be like everybody else? Or will you dare do something different? Like, be a teacher. You could be my teacher. You got the skills.
The smarts?
Yes, you. You could be the teacher I never forget. That'd be cool. Does that corporate job even have recess? What are you gonna make of yourself?
What are you gonna make of me?
Issue 4, Trump's storm.
President Trump won a legal victory this week when a judge enforced a non-disclosure agreement on adult actress Stormy Daniels. Why is this relevant? Because Daniels alleges that she had an affair with the president in 2006. Trump married his wife Melania in 2005. While the president denies he had an affair with Daniels, the actress is now traveling the nation on tour.
All right, John, are we now all French in the sense that the French do not worry about potential affairs with?
A French president would never have paid off anyone. Right. So I think we need to make this very clear. We're not the French. The president felt a need to have a non-disclosure agreement and somehow give a lot of money to Stormy. In France, that would be unthinkable. But so maybe we're halfway there.
But what do you think? Does this affect the president negatively?
No, I think anyone who was shocked by this didn't pay attention to Trump for the last several years. Yeah. This came up in the campaign many times, grabbing things, etc. There's nothing shocking about any of this.
This is what depends who it is. Take Al Franken and take the judge down there in Alabama. With senators and congressmen, it's killer. It's deadly. It would finish them off. But with Trump, I think people understood going in, this is the one you're dealing with. His supporters know it. We never thought he was a choir boy. And so this is coming out. But the one problem with this is not so much the affair and that. It's that you got this lawyer involved here, and things have been done, and maybe election laws might have been violated, and that's a way to get into Trump's campaign.
If people didn't care, why did he go to such lengths to have one woman paid off and another woman who got $150,000 for an article that never appeared in the Enquirer because the editor was a friend of Trump's? The lies and the payoffs, the hush money, are going to continue. Not that the Federal Election Commission is a great watchdog agency, but there are laws that were broken here, and the precedent is John Edwards and his payments through
But,
Bunny Mellon
Do you
to
think
care
voters
for
are
a
that-
love child.
violation of law, Eleanor. You're talking about violation
let me ask
violations
Clarence.
of
Let me
law,
ask Clarence
that's
a
right.
question. Clarence, do you think though this will affect the voters? I mean, do you think if it came out?
Thank you for bringing them up. You know, I mean, this really, Bill Clinton prepared the way for Donald Trump, because when Bill Clinton got away with the Lewinsky scandal, when the voters decided that was less important than having him in office, when they went through the impeachment and everything, and he came out with improved approval ratings, that prepared the way. Donald Trump, of course, wanted to squash this story because he hadn't been elected yet. Now he's in office. He's got a constituency out there that will protect him, including the values voters, folks.
Well,
That's
true,
the
isn't it?
evangelicals, 80% support, and there's a point in
If Trump delivers on jobs and terrorism and Korea,
is he delivering? Is he delivering?
Eleanor, the values.
It remains to be seen.
Eleanor, let me tell you, the values voters care about one thing: Gorsuch and the next Supreme Court justice. If he deals with a pro-life justice,
And with that, do you think Anthony Kennedy is leaving this summer?
Well, they're floating the idea that he's stepping down so they can keep alive the notion that there's going to be a Supreme Court seat to fill to keep the evangelical voters in line.
There could very well be a Supreme Court seat that Trump gets to a point, and that is the one reason. Look, the values voters, they want him in there.
We must move on.
I will say one thing. Every day the media is leading with Stormy, it's not leading with Robert Mueller. And that plus for the
All right.
No collusion.
All right.
That's right.
Issue 5 of Games and Guns.
Video game industry representatives met this week with activists who say that video games contribute to the nation's gun violence problem. Their forum? The White House. But while President Trump has suggested he shares activist concerns, the First Amendment limits the ability of Congress to restrict video game content and purchase eligibility ages.
I'm going to go to Clarence on this one. Clarence, do you think we should have a constitutional amendment to ban the sale of video games to people below 18 years?
That, of course, would be a direct contradiction of the First Amendment, as we now have it. This is such an old battle. I sometimes wonder if Donald Trump has read a newspaper in the last 20 or 30 years. This is, of course, we always wind up blaming something in the media. And video games are so vulnerable because they, of course, shock us adults. That's why our kids love them so much. But the fact is, this has been through the courts, and all families of victims have sued video game companies and all. And there's not an ounce more evidence now that they lead to violence than we used to have.
I mean, these video games, look, I've never graduated above pinball machines.
You and me both.
Video games, I mean, these Armalite 15 or rifles, they use the AK-47s. It's very graphic, understand, more and more so. And
Are you saying you don't play Grand Theft Auto?
No, but I'm saying, look, if we're talking about not influencing, you get impressionable kids watching people shot up and laughing about it and enjoy about it. It's on TV, it's in movies. I mean, that doesn't affect behavior?
There's no evidence. That's the problem. It's been argued out.
We've been through this before. I keep expecting Tipper Gore to show up at some point.
Right.
I mean, this is really a replay of the 1980s, how teenagers are killing themselves and each other because of terrible music lyrics.
Is it a distraction?
It's a safe harbor for people to go to who don't want gun control.
So you think it's a distraction?
Pat's for the rifles in real life, but not in video games. I mean,
I don't think there's
it.
any debate that with some kids, video games can have a negative impact.
No, you would like the industry to show restraint, and you would like parents to show restraint.
I'm for background checks. That guy down there in Broward County should not have had those guns. There's a number. I mean, when I bought guns out in Virginia when I was a collector, I mean, you had 30-day waiting period, and then when you got there, they called the state police and to make sure you weren't on any list.
Well, I have a little anecdotal thing to add here. Silencio, so I'm going to tell the viewers, actually, this is a big vendetta I've been on to get Grand Theft Auto to introduce a police mod. So you can play as a police officer as well, so there could some balance with all the craziness. Anyway, it's not working so far. We will be right back with predictions.
I'm one unlucky guy. The chance of being involved in a robbery is 1 in 757. The chances of being struck by lightning. 1 in 750,000.
Please fasten your seatbelts for unexpected turbulence.
The chances of being a victim in an airline crash? 1 in 29 million. Hey, could I get some peanuts? The chances of being involved in a car crash are far greater than lightning strikes and plane crashes. And if you are texting while driving, your risk of crash increases 23 times. Now, I may be an unlucky guy, but I don't have to be part of that statistic, and neither do you. Drive responsibly.
Generation Hope is a nonprofit organization that helps DC area teen moms and dads become college graduates. We provide them with tuition assistance, one-on-one mentoring, and crisis support until they graduate.
Crises along the way. There have already been a lot of crises.
My mom passed away, and I do everything for my mom in memory of her. I dedicate this graduation to her on Mother's Day.
When a young parent earns their college degree, the likelihood that that child will go to college goes up, and they will earn $1 million more over the course of their lifetime.
Naraya Omar.
It's a tremendous return on investment. And all of these issues that we care about, homelessness, child welfare, poverty, this really makes a difference, and it changes lives.
Congratulations. Have a wonderful weekend.
Predictions, Pat.
If Democrats win the House, which is a probability or possibility, I do not believe Nancy Pelosi will be Speaker of the House in 2019.
Who will be?
Mr. Donnelly has a shot at it, I believe, does he not?
Okay, we shall see. I don't know.
I want to give a shout out to the Florida legislature and to the governor who signed the package of common sense gun control measures, and it suggests for the first time that politicians see it's better to be on the side of gun safety and gun control than lining up with the NRA.
John.
The Skripal attempted hit this week is going to force the British government finally to take some concrete action against the Russians over their wet work, and it's going to put the White House in an extraordinarily awkward political situation, and the pushback inside the institutionalized government in D.C. is already starting.
Do you think there'll be escalation between the UK and Moscow?
Absolutely.
Spy games?
Absolutely.
Yep.
And it's going to get ugly.
Okay. All right, Clarence.
Well, Louis Farrakhan, well-known black Muslim leader from the 1980s, is back in the headlines as the conservative press is using him as a litmus test to judging Democrats who have been friendly with him in the past, especially black Democrats, including Jesse Jackson, including Barack Obama, et cetera. He's going to be quite possibly the midterm litmus test now for Democratic politics.
Interesting. Okay. I predict that the North Korean nuclear talks will fail to make headway. A U.S. military buildup around Guam will follow. And here's a random fact. 77 years ago today, Franklin Delano Roosevelt signed Lend-Lease, or an act further to promote the defense of the United States and for other purposes, authorizing the provision of food and material in support of Britain's war effort against Nazi Germany. Lend-Lease was a down payment on an enduring special relationship. Thank you very much to you, all panelists, for joining a wonderful conversation of 5 issues today. And we hope that you will join us next week. But until then, make sure to follow us on Twitter at McLaughlin Group and to visit our website at mclaughlin.com, where your friends can watch this show. Panelists, did you enjoy that extravaganza?
Welcome
Outstanding.
to the first
Well done.
45-minute, half-hour show.